Anybody not okay? Everybody's good?
All right. Again, I hope you all enjoyed the day. It was good to get out there, get in the stadium, beautiful day, and let you and the fans see a little bit about the upcoming team. Throughout the spring, I was very proud of this group. We definitely got better. We made a lot of strides. The negative, the downside of coming out here and splitting it up and playing everybody on your roster, has a tendency to look a little sloppy from time to time. But we've got better throughout this spring. Unfortunately, lost a wideout again early in the scrimmage. I think we were down five guys that'll play, at wide receiver. And we got through the whole spring, for the most part until, this last week with a bunch of nagging injuries, hopefully nothing season-ending. Last year we lost some guys in the spring for season-ending injuries, and that wasn't good. I mean, it's hard to overcome. And this year, I felt like going into today that we got the work done throughout the previous 14 practices, things we weren't able to do a year ago. You go back to last spring and then even through fall camp, we were short some numbers, and it hurts you with the way you practice. And it carried over into the games last year, and some of it's on us or not being good enough in certain areas. But when you get into those critical 3rd and 1s, 3rd and 2 goal lines that we got stopped on so many times, we were able to do that full tilt this spring and get that work done with the bigger bodies in there. And those are the areas that I'm talking about. And then you get short in one particular area, like the receiver room got towards the end of spring. It really takes away from the whole team, just the way you operate, the way you practice, the way you scrimmage, and so on. So, with that being said, I'm happy with the way things went. And today was a very generic, very vanilla, bland scrimmage, but it's still football. Getting guys out there and seeing them run, throw, catch, tackle, or thud, and get in position and play blocks and all those things. So it was overall very productive spring. Glad to put it in the books and put the wraps on it. As I just told the team, this isn't the end. We're going right back to work and getting in that weight room Monday morning. So we're with them Monday. I got meetings on Tuesday, and so we're right back at it. We've got to make sure we don't lose any of the gains that we made as far as strength, weight, all the things. We got to make sure we maintain that in the next 3 weeks before they take a little break in May. And so we're going to hit it pretty hard again for a couple weeks and try to continue to move forward. I'll open it up at that point.
Portal obviously opening up again next week. How do you feel about the roster overall? Are there still things you want to tweak here?
I feel good about the roster. There's a couple, there's a few areas where I'd love to get a couple guys. Again, you need to have the depth. You need to be able to function and practice. We're still working through roster limitations and what that number is going to be next year. And so there's still some moving pieces, but yeah, I think I'd like to keep intact the nucleus of what we have here. There has to be a few, just for numbers alone with the attrition, that there'll be some people that go in the portal. There has to be, and then depending on that, we'll work through bringing some guys in too.
About the roster limits, how do you feel for what your walk-on situation is going to look like, and how that will affect you having fewer of them than you've been accustomed to in the past?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be something that is you have to work through. Again, you go into next fall. Like right now, I'd say we're down probably 12, 13 guys, and I think the study showed that people go through 10, 11, 12 at all given times in football. So you go from 105 and then down to 95, or less. It stunts, it hurts the growth of the younger players and just how you practice, how physical you can be, how many reps and all those things. So we'll work through that. We've been trying to navigate that off what we believed was going to happen with the 105. And so we'll continue to work through that.
You mentioned just the receiver attrition, but David Washington did get a lot of run with the ones. What have you seen from him this spring, and is it enough to see more of him in the fall?
Yeah, you'll definitely see more of him in the fall. He's a guy that we've always liked. He's one of those guys that is usually very steady, very sturdy. You know what you're going to get out of David. He's shown that he could be a sure-handed guy, a steady guy, and somebody that we could count on. So we look forward to using him in the future.
Mark, you said you've seen improvement. You talked about that all spring, really. Was there one area in particular you like more than others in terms of?
We've got to continue, to get better at the line of scrimmage and grow. I think, we definitely have some bodies to work with on the offensive line and defensive line, and we've got to continue to maintain that and continue to get better.
It's hard to judge a running game when it's just thud. It's not full tackle, but what did you see from the running game today?
Yeah, I've seen growth in the run game all spring, and we did do, probably 100 play scrimmage where it was completely live, and you got to see that. We got to see that, and we definitely made some strides, and need to continue to work on that. And I know that, we have to have that physicality and the ability to run the ball to set up the play actions and not being predictable and second and long, third and long, and all those things. So we're getting better.
Elaborating on that, talking about did you see the physicality that you all saw when you watched them?
Yeah, when we had the live scrimmage, you were able to see it. And when there were segments in practice, as I mentioned, goal line or short yardage plays when we were going live in practice, you saw it then as well. Where you're converting those 3rd and 2s that, you're getting a profile tackle, and you need to get a tough yard or two, and we saw that.
The 2 times we got to see practice, Montague and Quisenberry make plays. Is that indicative of his spring overall and what you see for him moving forward?
Yeah, I think he's a guy that definitely has some big playability and a bright future. That's another area, the receiver room, just in numbers, and like I said, we're down some guys with some nagging injuries here late in the spring. But he is a guy that has a bright future.
Kalen Edwards flashed a couple of times today, especially around the goal line. Have you been seeing those kind of things from him?
Yeah, he's a big, strong guy, as you could tell, and one of the young D linemen that we feel like will definitely contribute next year, and we need to keep on working and developing and getting better. But certainly has some size and some strength and some good qualities.
How do you feel about Jamarion Wilcox's progress, just with all the little things that we talk so much about?
Yeah. Jamarion is again, he's a great young man that's trying, and it's our job to continue to develop him, to continue to bring him along, and make him accountable. Those are the things that we talked about as well, right? The little things, not getting big, and taking care of all the details that it takes, and he's growing.
More culturally, where do you feel like this program has made strides from the end of the Louisville game to right now?
Yeah, I think we made great strides. It's been intentional, with same thing I've touched on, throughout the spring, right? When you're not winning enough football games and little things creep up, they're big things. And, that's the bottom line. And so, for us, it's being accountable to everybody in the building. And we're not going to be perfect. The players aren't going to be perfect, but this group cares about each other. We've been intentional about doing things and bringing them together and keeping them accountable, to each other and, to the program. And I like them.
Stone Saunders looked like a true freshman his first few passes. What does it say about him as a player that he's able to come back in and get that scoring drive to close out today?
Yeah, I think he's a guy that's played, thrown it around a lot at the high school level, with so many yards and touchdowns, and so he's played a lot of ball, and it's just a matter of getting reps. It's really hard. I had to talk to the quarterbacks, because in this scrimmage it was fine. We got them the reps, but you think about it. Where else on this football team do you have 5 deep, right? And quarterbacks need reps. That's the challenge with, the receiver room being down the last, 2 or 3 practices, getting the reps that it takes, because there's no other position that you could go out there 5 deep. And, the ones, the top, 2 or 3 quarterbacks need so many reps.
How important was it that you all got Bill back? Like, it seemed uncertain last year to whether he was going to play another year or not. Like, what was, how big was that?
Yeah, it was big. Bo and I sat down and had a conversation, and, we really needed him, because, we feel really good, about the quarterback room. But it's really nice to have him there, and I don't mean to diminish that at all. It's just, you know what you're getting with Bo. He's so bright. He's such a team guy. He works hard, and, the nice thing about Bo in that, as I just mentioned, that with 5 quarterbacks getting reps, some guys need a lot of reps. The nice thing about Bo is that you kind of know what you're going to get, and he can bank those reps. He can mentally bank reps and come in and function and run the offense, and it's it's important to have that.
Defensively, where do you need to see growth from now until the start?
All the little details, the little things. Offenses are so complex right now, and we do a good amount of defense. The defensive staff does a remarkable job, but anytime, you've heard us talk about Coach White, myself, when I was calling the defensive plays, it's like, do we have too much? Do we have too little? And there's always a balancing act there, but it's the details that matter, and it's the little things, and there's so many moving pieces on offense. We got to be just dialed in. With alignments and assignments and just, basic execution. And, that sounds really easy, and it is if you just call 1 or 2 defenses. But we do a lot of things. And with all the moving pieces, it's those things that we got to find, exactly what we want to do, hone in on it, and have the players really dialed in on the little things with that.
Everybody good?
How have you seen Cutter's growth from last year to right
Yeah, Cutter, just again, he's better with every rep, and he's a guy that, in a couple of the practices, towards the end, we're just trying to get a lot of reps for a few of the quarterbacks, and he's a guy that, just the comfort level, we just got to get him out there more and get everybody back on the same page, and we've got to have a great summer, everybody as a group. But Cutter's definitely a guy we believe in, and, just getting better with every opportunity.
Mark, what do you want to see Calzada, what do you want to see him concentrate on this summer?
The same thing, like the details, right? A lot of broad strokes, early and getting on the same page, implementing the offense, him hearing it for the first time. And then it's the details, refining those things. And I've challenged the offense as a group. They have to do a good job and have great leadership and get a lot of work done when coaches aren't around. And we can't just lose the growth that we've made during this past, month and some change. So, I think that's a big thing for him, is just really showing that leadership, getting everybody on the same page, detailing some things out, and continuing to make steps.
The portal takes up a lot of conversation, but where do you feel about your high school recruiting efforts, and does the pitch have to change at all?
Well, as you move forward, I think you look at, the strategy of it, and, how many you're actually going to take, and what the balance is going to be between the portal and between high school guys. And, the high school recruiting for us is very good. We love the freshmen that we have on this team, and the guys that are going into their second year, we really feel good about. But, there's just a balance there that you try to work through. It's what your needs are. Obviously, after last season, we needed to get some guys with some experience, with some playing time, and I think that'll be a year-to-year decision.
You only put out some guidance several weeks ago on that JUCO ruling. Do you have any more clarity on the situation you all are?
I do. Yeah, I have some more clarity on it. Yeah.
Expect that to work out.
I think they've defined it for us pretty good now. It's there were some, it basically works off the clock as well. You know what I mean? So, without bringing up somebody's name, but the big name player, that's the perfect slot where that worked, as far as where he started, where, when he entered for the first time. So it amounts to years as well.
Mark, what'd you see from your special teams guys in the course of spring?
Yeah, we worked a lot of fundamentals as far as the inline guys, with punt and return and kickoff return and all those things, and a lot of drills and just work guys. So, when we get there in the fall, it's not for the first time. Coach Boulware does a very good job. He's very detailed and very demanding of the players, and we love that. And, Aiden is a special punter. You know, he just, he can hit it. And we worked the drill today. I don't know if you probably didn't notice it to the naked eye, but we work, you know, sky punt where we know it's going to be down. You know, we have an opportunity to be down inside the 10. And then with him, we have to do something where, because one scrimmage this year, we were doing the sky kick, then we backed it up, and he kept on hitting it in the end zone. And I'm like, we need to back up a little further. So we have to have a zone where we alert them where it could turn in the sky because he kicks it so far. You know, so that's a good thing. And I think with Cowway, you know, he's got a big leg. He's been relatively consistent. I think that'll be the key for us is that consistency. You know, we were spoiled last year because we had a very consistent kicker, and you know, I think that'll be we just got to continue to work on that.
Okay, folks, thank you very much for bringing a couple of players.